Hi guys, so I'm here today at the beautiful Stannick Lakes with Huda Musa. She's just graduated in law from the University of East Anglia. Now she's going on to the BTC, pursuing her aspirations to become a criminal barrister. So today we're just going to ask her some questions and discuss her journey and how she's gone about this process so far. So tell me about uni, studying law. How's it been for you?
It's been amazing, Alex. I'm at the University of East Anglia, or rather I've just finished from there a few weeks ago. I did a 4-year LLB because I did a year studying law abroad in Denmark, and that was an amazing experience as well. I made a lot of international friends. I had the opportunity to compete in international legal competitions. And then I came back, worked really hard for final year. I've just got my results, I'm really pleased. The whole university experience has just been so good. I'm really excited to move on to the next chapter, if you like, and get stuck into the bar.
So it sounds like you had a great time at uni. Tell me about your time in Denmark, you're abroad.
Denmark was fantastic. It was such a big culture change in that it was my first time in Scandinavia. A lot of new things happened. I learned to properly ride a bike, like the Danes. I didn't pick up much of the Danish language because it's one of the most difficult to learn, but I did learn the best Danish word, which is snabele, which is the word for the at in an email, and its literal translation is A with elephant's trunk, so I thought, that's it, that's all I need to know. And then I also did some amazing legal modules, like I studied legal negotiations, with an amazing lecturer who had studied with Joe Navarro, and like I mentioned, did some international legal competitions in Paris and Hamburg, and all round had an amazing time. I did miss my home university a lot as well, and I also was looking forward to getting back towards working to my goal of becoming a criminal barrister.
Wow, it sounds like embracing some more cultures, widening your horizons, something really beneficial for everyone, obviously. But has that had any impact or extra motivation for your goal to become a criminal barrister?
It has actually. I didn't know that all of my exams would be oral exams in Denmark, and that significantly improved my public speaking skills, which is fundamental for any aspiring advocate, of course, especially in crime where most, if not all, of your time is going to be in court. So public speaking is crucial, and in those oral exams I was subjected to quite some rigorous questioning from the examiners. I had to respond to that and think on my feet. I had to assimilate information quickly, so all of those things really furthered my public speaking skills and makes me feel more confident and allows me to embark on my journey to the criminal bar with that extra skill, if you like.
Do you think, in terms of improving your communication, which you're going to have to use in court and advocacy, is going out into the real world and meeting real people, is that a key aspect of improving that? Or is there other ways which you learn to speak more professionally?
In terms of communication in the bar, like you mentioned, going out into the real world and meeting real barristers is a really important aspect. Any aspiring barrister must complete mini-pupillages throughout their law degree. So that basically means shadowing a barrister. It can be for 2 days, 3 days, or even a working week. And by doing that, you are meeting professionals, barristers, solicitors, judges, and you're observing them be advocates in their daily lives. You're observing their public speaking styles, and each barrister has a different style of advocacy. So you get to learn how it varies, and you get to learn skills from different members of chambers or members of inns of court that you meet. But like you mentioned, it doesn't just have to be through mini-pupillages. Those are essential to gaining work experience and to becoming a barrister, but you can improve your communication skills, say, through networking events. So at my university, UEA, who I'm really going to promote now, we have a great employability department. And if it wasn't for that department that put on so many networking events, so many workshops, brought in so many professionals, I really don't think I would have had as many opportunities as I was fortunate enough to have. And it was those opportunities that really helped me get to where I am now and motivate me to go further, because I do still have a very long way to go.
Yeah, could you tell us any more about these opportunities, maybe specifically, and how they've helped you along your journey.
Yes, so one recent opportunity was an Access to Justice fundraiser event where I worked alongside my law school, some colleagues in the law school and the Sheriff of Norwich and Lord Mayor to organise and plan that event, and that took place just before lockdown happened in March, so we were really fortunate with the timing. And essentially we brought together legal professionals from all across the Norfolk region and fundraised for 6 really important civic charities. And the day consisted of a series of student legal competitions followed by a moot finale. And I had the real honour of sitting on the judging bench alongside Her Honour Judge Bacon, the Lord Mayor, the Sheriff of Norwich in judging that moot. And that was a great opportunity in that not only was I and my colleagues able to work together and meet so many amazing professionals, but we also were able to put together this great cause for access to justice, and that's something that also really motivates me in wanting to become a criminal barrister. I've learned a lot about access to justice through pro bono work at my university and through studies such as optional modules like miscarriage of justice, so it's something that really does motivate me. It's one of my motivations for becoming a criminal barrister.
So tell me more about your experience with moots. How has that impacted your goals and motivations?
Oh, mooting is, well, it's just key for any aspiring barrister. At our university, we do have a really good mooting department. I was lucky enough to be the head of mooting this academic year just gone, and we run 2 mooting competitions for students. I think we had about 140 students get involved this year, which was a record, and it's just an amazing experience. You have a partner, you get given a scenario, and you get given roughly 2 weeks to prepare, and then you have to perform your submission against another side, and the skills that you gain, whether or not you want to be a barrister, are essential. I think that was the real selling point that I tried to get across to students when running the competitions this year, is that mooting isn't just for aspiring barristers. Yes, it's key if you want to be a barrister, but the confidence that any student gains just from doing it, the self-belief, you can actually see their personality grow, if you like. I mean, I even know lecturers at my university who have said within 3 months of teaching students, they can pick out which students they think have done mooting or not, in comparison to how much they have developed at the start of the year. So I think mooting is something everyone should get involved in, and it's something I have very, very much enjoyed doing.
It's an amazing experience. You mentioned earlier your exposure to some pro bono work. Tell me more about that.
Yes, so at my university I participated as a volunteer in the University Justice Project for 2 years. So that involved investigating potential miscarriages of justice by conducting in-depth research and analysis into cases. And that was really enjoyable. It was my first insight into pro bono, and I went on to then also become involved in our street law scheme. And that's our second pro bono scheme, and it's the only student-led street law scheme in the whole country, actually. So it was a great privilege to do that. And that involved going into different schools and teaching younger students about law. So we'd go into schools of all ages. So we could teach year 7s, year 10s, year 11s, and we put on mock trials for them, negotiations for them, mediations. So again, that involved public speaking, it involved meeting students, telling them about the law, encouraging them to even consider studying law or go to university. So that was also another really rewarding aspect of my university time.
I've been lucky to have so many amazing experiences at uni. Are these experiences what have made you realise that your ambition is to be a barrister, specifically a criminal barrister, or was that a goal for you a bit earlier on?
I think all of these experiences have definitely furthered that aspiration. Every time I think I've reached the peak of wanting it, something always, it makes me realise I want it more. But it all started for me, I think it was during mooting, which we just spoke about. That's when I really realised, in the middle of a moot, that, I love this public speaking, and I love this persuasion, because advocacy is the art of combining public speaking and persuasion together. And then I thought I could be a barrister, and I've always been particularly interested in crime from my first year studies of criminal law. And I mentioned that all aspiring barristers should be doing mini-pupillages as part of their work experience. So when I did those, I took a really strong interest in the criminal ones specifically, because for me it's all about being in court, and you get most court time at the criminal bar. And I think that that area of the bar as well is potentially the one that holds the greatest potential to directly affect an individual's life. For example, during mini-pupillages I've seen cases like murder cases, but also public disorder cases. And that showed me that not every case is really groundbreaking, but that's not the point. The point is that that case matters to the individual. So I think that's really the selling point for me. And the criminal bar has so many challenges, and I think most people are aware of that. The long hours, how demanding the job can be. It's not a glamorous life, and I'm sure I have a lot more to learn about that as well. But that has only furthered my determination to get there, because the fact that no 2 days are the same, it's just a challenge that I can't wait to take on, because I just love the profession so much, and I really can't wait to get into it.
So you've had a lot of experiences that have compelled you to pursue a career as a criminal barrister, but of course we all know how much of a difficult career that is. Was there ever any doubts in your mind about whether you would make it? And what would you say to someone who is doubting themselves if they also want to follow this career path?
I think that, well, what's key to being a criminal barrister, or a barrister in general, is that confidence is essential, and self-belief will get you there. And that's because of the sheer competitive nature of the job and of the profession. It's so competitive that you can't afford to lack self-belief, and you can't afford to doubt yourself. You have to believe that you are the one that Chambers wants. And I think that that's what a lot of people say in their pupillage advice, when securing pupillage. It's all about confidence. You've got to show that confidence, because if you don't have confidence in yourself, why would Chambers have confidence in you? But having said that, I have to be honest, and I have to say that I, like anyone, of course have moments where they doubt themselves, and that's just part of human nature. We all have moments of doubt, and what matters is how long we let those moments drag out. So, like, when I have a moment where I doubt myself, I quickly think, right, Huda, okay, this is normal. What can I do to alleviate this? How can I move on, and how can I come back stronger? So I think that hopefully is what will make me successful, and hopefully will make any other aspiring barrister become a barrister as well. So what I'd say to another person, considering I myself do have a long way to go still, is that having come this far, when I look back at my first day at university, which I still vividly remember, I have achieved so much than I ever thought I would, and that's something that I'm pleased to be proud about. And I think that anyone else can do the same as well, as long as they believe in themselves, as long as you don't let any opportunity go, then there is no reason why an aspiring barrister can't become a barrister. So I'd say keep going, and I frequently tell that to myself, and I'm sure I will have to tell that to myself many more times.
It's a great message, and it's obviously something you've managed very well, your internal motivations, and now you've secured a place at an Inn of Court. Tell me about that.
Yes, so I'm very pleased and grateful to Lincoln's Inn. I recently went through the Inns of Court scholarship process. I've been drawn to Lincoln's Inn from the very start when I went to one of their university dinners, and I found the inn to be so friendly, so approachable. A lot of my contacts as well happen to be members of Lincoln's Inn, so all of that really attracted me to Lincoln's Inn, and so I applied to that inn for a scholarship, and I'm really fortunate that I was successful in receiving a Lord Denning scholarship. So when that happened, I joined the inn, and now I'm just finishing off my last few bits of paperwork to making that all official. And I really can't wait to get stuck in the activities that the inn provides. I want to become a really active member and really give back to the inn, and also deliver upon the faith that they've put into me, or the faith they've shown in me rather. by getting the best results that I can in my BPTC studies in September.
Wow, so given your illustrious resume, what advice would you give to someone who is undergoing similar applications to that you have?
Well, with ins of court scholarship applications, I would definitely say go for it. A barrister once told me that if you don't think you would be good enough for an ins of court scholarship application, then you're not good enough to be a barrister. And at first, I took that quite hard, but what he meant was you have to believe you're good enough to apply. Just because you don't get one doesn't mean that you're not good enough to be a barrister. The sheer competitive nature of it means that not everyone can get a scholarship. Part of it is down to your hard work, part of it is down to luck. So I'd say to anyone, you have to believe you're good enough to apply to an inn of court. And how you go about that, well, it's different for different people. So there are 4 inns of court, and they don't have a great deal of difference between them. So they all serve very similar functions, and they are all very prestigious, and it's a great honour to be a member of any one of them. The only differences might be that a person might feel one slightly more friendly or might know people that are particular in. Apart from that personal preference, it's literally like Hogwarts, really. So there isn't any major differences. The only real difference is the scholarship applications and the type of application. So Lincoln's Inn and Gray's Inn don't automatically interview every applicant, whereas Middle and Inner do interview every applicant. So a lot of people might base their applications on that. If you think that you are particularly strong on paper, which is what I felt, then you might want to apply to Lincoln's or Gray's, because if you can get past that first hurdle and then get invited to interview, then you're then up against less applicants. But if you think that you really excel in interview, you might want to apply to Middle and Inner, where you'll be guaranteed an interview and then you can really shine in person. So apart from that, there isn't really any difference. The scholarship deadlines are the 1st of November of every year, I believe, so you can only apply to 1 inn every year. And then the interviews usually take place around February, March time. It's different for every inn. But I'd say definitely apply. I'm so grateful to Lincoln's Inn. They've funded the entirety of my BPTC, basically. So it's really, really worthwhile.
So you mentioned when choosing your inn of court, it was a factor for you that you had quite a lot of contacts at Lincoln. So tell me about having contacts and networking within the law profession, and how does that help you?
Well, contacts are fundamental at the bar, because when considering you're most likely going to be self-employed, if the self-employed bar is what you want to do, then establishing one's practice is key to their success, and that comes from really making contacts and building a good reputation. So I was of the thinking that you can never start too early with that. So I made an effort to develop a little book of contacts, actually, like my little book. And every time I met a legal professional, whether it be a barrister, a solicitor, a judge, a pupil, someone doing BPTC, anyone who I could potentially call upon for help in the future, I asked them if it was okay for me to have their card or have their LinkedIn or their email, and I'd write them down in my little book of contacts. So I made sure to do that at all networking events. I made sure I always wrote down every single barrister that I shadowed on every mini-pupillage, and every judge who that barrister was before, the opposing counsel, all of those details, providing it was suitable with them. And what that means is that I've actually developed quite a few professional contacts who I would consider are friends at this point. So just last week I was having a FaceTime catch up with a solicitor advocate, and we were talking about what's happening with his son's GCSEs and the predicted grades and all the lockdown business. So that was really interesting, and it's just great because these people are people who are there to help you and also who you might be working with in the future. So contacts are really, really important, and I've had the pleasure of just meeting some of the most incredible people and I make an effort to just keep up with them and establish a really good relationship and keep it going.
It's a key skill that doesn't always come naturally, but is vital nonetheless.
Yeah.
And building off this, you have recently secured a pupillage, or a scholarship rather,
Yeah.
with BPP. Tell me about that.
I can dream of the pupillage for now, but
Yeah.
hopefully that will come soon. BPP, yes. So I will be doing my BPTC with them, or BTC as it will be called. And I am fortunate to them as well for allowing me to have 3 scholarships. So I'm really, really grateful. I applied for the Career Commitment Scholarship, which I was successful with in March, and the application for that was fairly standard. It was all the questions you'd expect. You know, why do you want to come to BPP? Why do you want to be a barrister? How would you use this scholarship, sort of thing. And that, along with 2 other scholarships from them, means that I'm in a really fortunate position where I can fully fund the bar course, which is, as we know, very expensive and can be a huge barrier for people who want to become barristers. So I do realise how fortunate I am to be in that position, and that not everyone might be, but I'd say definitely apply for the scholarships from your BPTC providers, because you never know, you might end up getting 1 or 2 or 3. Apply for the Inns of Court scholarships, and there's also all sorts of bursaries and other support that the Inns of Courts offer as well, to help you fund BPTC or with living costs in London and things like that.
So we're very interested here in the Law Hub about social mobility, and as you say, the cost of the bar course can really be a detrimental barrier to someone who wants to be a barrister. So what would you say in terms of advice to someone who wants to be that extra bit better than the rest of the competition and secure a scholarship?
I think the key for scholarship applications, and also from what I understand about pupillage applications, is evidence. So when making a claim like, I'm a good communicator, well, find a specific time when you've shown those good communication skills. I think that, of course, I don't know what it was about my scholarship applications particularly that secured me the scholarships, but I think that definitely had a large part to play in it. So when saying, I'm good at public speaking, I would say I've taken part in mooting, these international legal competitions, and also go further in talking about what specific skill in that experience did you acquire. So yes, mooting helps public speaking, but it also helps you to think on your feet and respond to rigorous judicial interventions. It also helps you structure arguments coherently, persuasively and logically. It also helps you to structure lengthy submissions and argue that persuasively. So I think being specific when giving evidence is fundamental to those applications. I think that definitely had a large role to play, in my case at least.
Evidence with specificity is of course the hallmark of a lawyer, and you're someone with a pretty good insight into the life of a criminal barrister. So tell us, what do you expect and what do you know so far about that kind of lifestyle and occupation?
What do I know so far? I know that the job is very demanding, and I've seen that from my first criminal mini-pupillage. It's going to be long hours away from your family and loved ones. It's going to be dealing with sometimes very difficult clients, vulnerable witnesses, demanding work, and I think that appreciating all of that is actually the most important thing, because if you don't have a realistic insight into the profession that you want to go into, then how can you be prepared for it? So I've not only acquired that insight, but I've really tried to act upon it and prepare myself for what's to come. And I know how much hard work is expected of me, so now I'm prepared to put that work in. So that's why I've developed that book of contacts, so that I can feel comfortable enough to call upon people for help in the future and establish my practice. It's why I have an organisation planner, if you like, where I divide my days into hourly periods and assign that to my commitments depending on their priority. So because I know about the demanding nature of the work, I'm already at this stage trying to deal with that, and I will continue to develop new methods of doing that in the future. But having said all of those things which often might put people off the criminal bar, it is what I think the best profession to get into, and I hope that I will still say that once I do actually eventually get into it, and that's because it's so rewarding. I've seen barristers who have been able to call up the victim with the verdict that victim was seeking, and just, the reaction from them, it's like none other. It's so rewarding in terms of the skills you develop. What other job involves representing a client, persuading a jury, responding to a judge's difficult questions, all whilst maintaining your integrity and professionalism? I think that's, it's more like an art really, advocacy, and it's those rewarding aspects of directly influencing a person's life that really appeal to me, and I think that if a person stays focused on that, then, like me, the long hours, that's just a challenge to take on. It's something that's all worth it for the greater picture.
It is a notoriously rigorous life as a criminal barrister, but also a rewarding one. What are some key skills that you think a criminal barrister needs, maybe in a bigger dose than a barrister of another bar?
One is definitely resilience. So I've mentioned some of the challenges which I personally have observed, and I'm sure there are many more that I will observe in the future, but to overcome those challenges, a barrister has to be resilient. I think another one would be commitment. One has to be committed to their clients, but also committed to the court, and only by being fully committed will a barrister be able to put their client's case across as best as they can. Obviously, advocacy goes without saying. That's specific also to the criminal bar in terms of the fact that that is where there is most likely to be most advocacy, being in court for most of the time. And I'd say the most important quality rather than skill for a criminal barrister is integrity. So this comes back to the fact that being self-employed, one's reputation as a criminal barrister is all about their establishment and their success, and that is all linked to integrity. How one conducts themselves, whether they treat other advocates with respect, whether they are respectful themselves, and whether they belittle their opposing counsel, whether they speak to them in private. All of that links to integrity. It's a combination of many skills and qualities like honesty, empathy, and those are fundamental to any criminal barrister, I would say.
So work experience is something you've had a lot of, and it's obviously benefited you greatly. What was your favourite work experience and most rewarding? And what would you say to someone who is seeking relevant work experience for a law career?
All the pieces of work experience I've done, I've loved for different reasons, but I think one that has stood out for me was my first ever mini-pupillage, and that's because it was my first mini-pupillage, but also my first in crime. So it was a multi-handed sex trafficking case in London, so I was thrown in on the deep end. I loved it so much that I actually went back to London after the mini-pupillage was over just to carry on observing the trial, and that really marked the moment of affirmation that crime and the bar is for me. That I knew it from then. So I think that's why that mini-pupillage, my first one, really stands out. What I'd say to anyone seeking work experience, well, mini-pupillages are competitive, of course. You have to apply through Chamber's website. What I'd say in terms of tips for doing that is I made a huge spreadsheet of all the chambers I was interested in and their respective deadlines, and then my personal deadline, which I determined from my personal calendar. So I'd know, okay, during this month I'm going to be particularly busy, I could only really fit in 2 applications. That month I might be able to fit in more. And then I really research the chambers. So it's all about research. The application's got to be specific to them. They want to know not only why should they take you for the work experience, but why do you want them? So research is key. You can find out some really interesting things, like I've become a professional Chambers Twitter stalker now, and I've really gone out of my way to personally message barristers to ask questions and things, and there's nothing wrong with that. Worst case scenario, you might not get a response, but best case scenario, you do get a response, and you're really keen and you've made contact. What's not to love about that? So yeah, you can apply for mini-pupillages the formal way, but don't be afraid of just using your initiative as well. So I'm from a family that doesn't have any legal contacts. I don't have anyone in my family that does law, and I don't have any legal family friends. And a lot of people are in that position as well. And someone told me once, it was a barrister actually, he said, well, just use your initiative. Just contact a barrister and ask if they would be happy to take you on for a few days. And I thought, really? You want me to beg for a mini-pupillage? And he said, well, it's not begging, it's just using your initiative. It's likely that not many other people will do that, but if a barrister has received a LinkedIn message from you, politely asking if they would offer you any advice, or whether they'd be happy to look over your CV, or whether they'd take you on for a few days, A, they're either not going to reply, and okay, it's not the end of the world, or B, they might think this person's used their initiative, I want to get to know them. And so I actually secured 2 of my mini-pupillages that way. So I think apply, research chambers, and use your initiative, get creative, speak to people at networking events, write down their contacts, always follow up the next day with a question that you might have saved behind so that you can contact them again and really get to know them. All of those networking tips, I think, could really help someone get that experience.
It seems like the more initiative you've taken, the more experience you've garnered. Your inspiration to be a criminal barrister is really augmented as well.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone in terms of seeking out inspiration, and what were your own inspirations at the age of 17, 18, deciding to do law in the first place?
Oh, what inspired me? For me, it was the public speaking, as I mentioned, and the persuasion element. So it's really about advocacy. But I've also been inspired by what I've learned in my criminal studies. So that's not only my first year criminal module, but my optional modules, which I mostly chose crime because that is my interest. So I've done crime and sentencing, criminal process, miscarriage of justice, and all of those modules inspired me more than I could have ever imagined, and only confirmed my aspiration to be a criminal barrister as well. So I'd say try, if you know what modules or what area of law you're interested in, choose those modules. If you're unsure, then choose a variety so that you can have the opportunity to find out what your inspiration is from those. I would also say go to court. You'd be inspired in that way. Very few people know that our system of open justice in England, Wales, means that the public gallery, I mean, it's not open right now because of coronavirus, but on a normal day, anyone can go to court and sit in the public gallery, and people don't really appreciate that. People get surprised when they hear that. Why would you not? I've spent so many afternoons going to court and just sitting there, just because I'm interested and because I'm motivated to learn more. So if you don't know if the bar is for you, go to court and see what's going on. I think that's the best experience anyone can get. Likewise, a mini-pupillage is very similar. Do a mini-pupillage. Also, I'd say do a piece of work experience in something where you are unsure if that's what you want to do. For example, I have done work experience with a solicitor's firm, and I found that to be really beneficial and really informative, but also useful in the sense that it affirmed the bar is what I want to do. And now I can say that respectfully when I get asked why I want to be a barrister. Well, that's something that was that further confirmation, and you might be inspired to be a solicitor if you did do that. You might realise, oh, maybe the bar isn't for me. So I think work experience, visiting court, studying interesting modules or trying out new modules, they were all inspirations for me.
And of course you've taken that all in your stride and done exceptionally well so early on.
Thank you.
But what would you say has been your biggest challenge in your journey so far?
I would say my biggest challenge, I want to just say completing the degree itself. Of course, I never doubted that I would complete the degree, but now having just completed it, as of the last 2 weeks, I'm really proud about the last 4 years. During A-levels, I did all sciences, so I really came into law feeling quite inferior maybe at the start to other students in terms of the fact that I initially didn't know how to write good essays in comparison to them, so I had to work much harder, to really up my skills and things. So all of that really culminated in the point where I am now, and I think that the whole degree, taking on so many extracurricular activities in 1 year, balancing that with different commitments, part-time employment, pupillage applications, I think all of that has been one big challenge that I'm really proud to be here now talking about, and I'm sure the challenges will keep on coming.
So of course the process is a marathon, not a sprint, in terms of becoming a barrister, but would you be able to pinpoint one achievement that made you exceptionally proud?
I think one achievement I am very proud of is receiving the Law Danish scholarship from Lincoln's Inn, and I think that's because the Inn is just so prestigious, the scholarship is prestigious, and it demonstrates the faith that the Inn has in my abilities, and I fully intend on delivering upon that faith and more next year. And it also, I think, reflects the culmination of how far I've really come from my first day at university, but also I can use that as motivation when considering how far I still have to go.
It's a bit overwhelming to hear one person who has achieved so much in such a short space of time. So I think to end, I'd just like to ask you, what would you give in ways of general advice to someone who is maybe considering a law degree or a barrister career?
For someone who perhaps is just starting their law degree or will be starting it, I'd say grasp every single opportunity that comes your way. I know that's so cliche, but that's quite literally what I did. Even if I didn't think I would perhaps be interested in that opportunity, I did it because I might have discovered interest. I don't know. That's why you take opportunities. So really take every single opportunity. Don't take it for granted at all. Get to know your employability department at your university and go to all of the networking events, go to all of the employability events that they put on. I really took advantage of that, so again, linked to taking opportunities, and it was through that I got to know a lecturer so well that she was able to write me a lovely reference for my scholarships, which brings me on to my third point: apply for scholarships. You are good enough. Apply for them. You don't know what's going to happen. Apply for the Inns of Court and apply for scholarships with your BPTC provider. Network. Make contacts. They are so important. You have no idea who you're going to meet. I've met so many amazing people. And meeting one person had led to meeting another, and that led to me bumping into a person that I had met from 2 mini-pupillages ago on a different mini-pupillage, and it really is a very small world at the criminal bar as well, and that's why relationships are really, really important. So make contact and network. You'll be surprised just how many incredible people you will meet and who will be so happy to help you in your journey. I would also say back up everything with evidence, and start thinking about that from the very start, really. Whenever you do take an opportunity, think about, throughout your completion of that opportunity, okay, what am I doing right now, what skills am I gaining, and write it all down. So again, another tip would be documenting everything. So there isn't really much point in doing your mini-pupillage if you're not going to write down every single thing that happened and every single person that you meet, because you have to be prepared to talk about it and say, well, what happened and what did you learn? So make sure you write everything down. What else? Also, persevere and don't be disheartened when things don't go your way, because inevitably, on a challenging journey such as that to the criminal bar, you will not get pupillage for the first time, as I've just discovered. You might not get that grade for that module that you really wanted, but everyone has failures, if you like. The difference is how far you let your disheartenment from that failure drag on. So either let it drag, and that won't really lead to any productivity, or use it in your stride and use it as your motivation. So I'd say it is a challenging journey. You've got to be prepared for it, and don't be disheartened if you don't get it the first time. I haven't. You might not get it a second or third or fourth time. Stay tuned, I'll let you know. And also complete work experience. It's a great way to get inspired, it's a great way to figure out if the bar is what you want. And again, back to the point of, it's a great way to make contact. So I think those are a bit of a lot of tips there.
It's an honest and very important message. Thank you so much for talking to us, Huda. This is all we've got time for today. From everyone at the Law Hub, we wish you the best of luck in your future professional endeavours. And thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for inviting me.